I spent 7 days in a completely pitch black dark room where I couldn't even see my hand. In this video I'll tell you why I did it, how it happened, what it's like, and should you do it. So buckle up, turn off your lights and enjoy. Welcome to the channel where I help you live your peak human life, which means living life at your fullest potential and being happy and fulfilled doing it. I take you through all sorts of experiments I did to myself and that are related to health, nutrition, movement, emotional intelligence or emotional well-being, as well as spirituality, sexuality, and all sorts of other cool, or for me, interesting stuff. Thank you, and let's get to the video. So what is darkness therapy? It's a form of a sensory deprivation, which means you're forcefully withdrawing one of your senses, in this case eyesight, and you're doing this in order to conduct some type of experience. For example, sensory deprivation can improve your other senses, and if you do it for a prolonged period of time, it can lead to different kinds of effects like hallucinations and so on. So this leads nicely to why you should actually do this. The reason why you should do darkness therapy or any sensory deprivation in a sense are multiple. Part of it is a spiritual practice because you are doing something hard, and doing hard things makes you stronger, tougher, and overall a better person. For me, this is inspired from Stoicism, which is an ancient Greek philosophy which is trying to actually push you towards your limits and get outside of your comfort zone. Other thing that you get from a prolonged sensory deprivation are visions or hallucinations, however you want to call that. And this can lead to a release of DMT, and DMT is also known as a God molecule. Basically, it's a chemical that brings up hallucinations or visions, and it can be found in things like psychedelics, and you can have this kind of psychedelic experience just with sensory deprivation, especially darkness. Many people take psychedelics in order to work on themselves, and darkness therapy is another way to do that because you have nothing else to do. You're just sitting there in the darkness, so shit will come up that you will have to deal with, you'll have to feel, you'll have to experience, and you will just think a lot, which can be tough. So that's another reason why you could do this. Or another possibility is to just do this for a sleep. You know, if you get locked in a dark room, you get a lot of sleep, especially first 3 days. Two other reasons why I did it is because I did a dopamine detox, on which I'll do a video some other time. But doing this darkness therapy during my dopamine detox, I was able to make it easier for myself and in a sense have 7 days of forced dopamine detox. But I'll get to the details in the next video, so if you want to see that, just subscribe. And one more thing which I heard somewhere mentioned at some point is improvement of eyesight. This is potentially not true, but it was one of the drivers which made me do it. Would I recommend this to anybody? No, not really. I would recommend it to people who have prior experience with meditation and who want to work on themselves, or if you want to do it for the reasons which I mentioned before. It's a great way to get bored, so this is also amazing for creative people who are lacking some type of inspiration. However, I wouldn't recommend this to people who cannot stay with themselves or be bored. Even by talking to some people and mentioning this retreat, I could see that they would not handle it properly and could actually go insane. I definitely wouldn't recommend this to everybody. So how did this happen? I went away to a cottage 1.5 hours away from Prague. It was someone's property and they had few cottages created specifically for this kind of darkness therapy. It's a cottage with no windows, no light coming in, and 2 rooms. Or in the main room you have a bed, a yoga mat and a meditation pillow. Oh, and also a kettle. Though the kettle you actually have to cover if you're making tea because it produces light. There's another room where there is bathroom, shower, and the bench where you get food. Yes, you get fed. Once a day they bring you food, which contains of a soup, a dessert, and a main meal. It's completely up to you when you eat it, how you eat it, and so on. In terms of the food, I personally didn't have that much options, so I wasn't able to get what I wanted specifically. Personally, I would want specific type of food to produce better results or help me out in other ways or in other experiments. So basically the food I was eating is not what I would normally eat, and therefore it wasn't ideal for me. Also the time of the delivery is uncertain, so that you cannot rely on it as a clock. In terms of food, you can also decide to fast and not eat at all. I decided to fast for 3 days only, because for fasting it's way better if you actually move, walk, and have some brisk exercise. In a room it's not that easy to achieve. So basically when I was getting there, I was going by train and I met 3 other people that were doing the same thing, and then we walked together. We walked together for an hour and a half, which is nice to get some exercise just before you get in there. Once you're in there, you go into your cottage. The light is on. I prepared my room, put everything somewhere where I could find it in case I need it, and then it was time to turn off the lights. It's completely up to you when you turn off the lights. So a few times I decided that I want to do it, but then I was double checking just in case I missed something. But basically then I turned it off, locked my door, and the session started. Very early on I realized I made a few mistakes, like not taking important stuff as shoes or something that you can wear inside, because the floor was very cold. Anyway, because I decided to fast, I already had 12 hours of not eating behind me, and I was actually starting to feel it already. Right the moment when I turned off the lights, I started to feel quite sleepy, as it was already 5 PM in the evening, and so I just went to bed. And basically that's how my first few days mostly looked like. A lot of sleeping, some walking, some exercising, but very few. Because of the fast, I had very little energy to actually do anything and even get out of bed. That's why when I do fast, I want to move, because then it's so much easier to deal with the fast and get faster into the fast. So because of this lack of energy, I was mostly sleeping or laying down in my bed and just turning around and thinking about food. A lot of thoughts were coming up to me in the first 3 days. I was thinking about work a lot, things I should do, improve. Later on even some anxiety came up, which is normal for sensory deprivation, and so I had anxiety around work and things like that, which I was very surprised to actually have, because usually I don't care if I lose a job based on some of the stoic trainings I did before. So that was very surprising to me to actually experience this anxiety or fear. On my second and third day, I was already craving food and looking forward to the time I'll eat, because I had so little energy and I really wanted food. They asked me on my first day if I want to eat, and I said no, even though it was already really hard, because I knew if I would say yes now, it would still take 1 more day before I would get food, and then it would be almost 2 days of fasting, and then it would lose complete sense, as it would still be really hard, but I would not get the benefits. So I decided to push on and fast for the 3 days. The last day of fasting is usually easier. It happened to be here as well. So I finally did some exercise. I was meditating more on the meditation pillow, and I even did some tantric exercises and moving energy around, which seemed to be very effective, being fasted and deprived of the senses. So yeah, I had a very powerful meditation or exercise. During the anxieties that I was feeling, I had to write things down, because otherwise my brain would not shut up. So I had to take out the notebook that I had and write things down. Writing things down helped me out to actually not think about it anymore, because otherwise my brain was going in loops and just repeating the same story all the time. So after I had my first food, I had more energy and I was able to do other things that which I wanted to do in the darkness. So I started to do yoga, meditate more, have some teas, just think about stuff, lay down, do some tantric exercises, and so on. Sometimes I was just walking around just to move, other times I was exercising a bit, or doing some sun salutations, even though there was no sun, and things like that. It's common to get bored, because we have nothing to do. For example, even when I was meditating, I wanted to quit, because it already felt too long, which is great. Boredom is very good, and thanks to the fact that I was bored, I was able to actually come up with very interesting ideas, very interesting concepts. This is actually where I started to get hallucinations as well. First, it was just lights going around my eyes, and especially when I closed my eyes, so a lot of light moving around and blinking and so on. Even with the eyes closed, it's the same if you have your eyes closed or not. So this is how it looks like inside the room. When I started to have the visions, I started to have increased imagination as well. This meant that if I closed my eyes and was imagining something, I saw it very clearly, very strongly, and it was very, very powerful. And thanks to this, I was able to create movies in my head, videos, music, and lots of other creative things. Basically, I was entertaining myself by creating stuff in my head and just playing movies in my head which I was creating and seeing them very clearly at the same time. This was very powerful in terms of creativity, and this actually showed me that I love creating things, and that creating things is very important for me and my brain as well, as it calmed me down and made me feel more inspired or happy. Other times when I was bored, I was singing, and hopefully nobody heard me from the other cottages around, but it was also a nice way to pass the time. It also felt like my singing was actually better in there, but who am I to say I'm not a great singer? And also singing or voice in general is a great way to get into a meditative state as well, and that was great. Overall, my experience was trying to stay present and not go insane. And overall, it worked when it worked. Though at the end, I was excited to leave, and I was on the 6th day, I was looking forward to get out. We got an alarm clock, which was supposed to ring at 6 a.m. or something like that, basically just before there will be sunrise, so your eyes can easily get used to the light and have an easier time actually adjusting back to life. I was very, very excited, so when I went to sleep, I was still trying to do some things during the day because I knew it's still probably just lunchtime, so I was still meditating and doing other things and trying to get tired and being excited about my last sleep and getting out. But on my day of departure, the alarm clock did not ring, or I didn't hear it. I was just laying down in my bed trying to sleep more, just so the alarm clock can start ringing and I can get out. It did not. After a while I got very tired of it, so I started to do my routine again of meditation, yoga, exercises, and so on, just to pass the time before the alarm clock starts ringing. It never rang. At some point I decided to take a last shower and pass the time that way, because I was tired of meditating and doing all these things. And I was pretty certain it was morning already, because I heard someone cutting down trees in the distance. So I was kind of concerned, but I wanted to make sure that I get out when the alarm clock starts ringing. So I was having a shower, and then I hear a loud knock with people shouting, "Get out! You should not be here anymore!" Which to me was kind of annoying, because I was naked in the shower and obviously I'm not gonna get out now. 4 minutes later, the owner actually came and we talked about like what's the time and that I should leave, and it was 1 p.m. I spent there 7 hours longer than I was supposed to, and those last 7 hours were extremely hard. I was happy to get out, but it was actually very tough for the eyes because they had to now get used to the very strong daylight. I was slowly opening the doors and leaving a very little crack in the light, because any small light was very painful to my eyes. So it took me like half an hour to actually get used to the light and back and so on. And that was it. That was my experience. What did I learn doing this? Basically, I was surprised that my brain was actually worried about certain things which I was never used to worry about. Then I was working on my work problems for the first few days, because when your brain gets bored, it likes to solve problems, especially mine. So I was solving work problems. Then, as I realized creativity and creating things is very important for me, I also realized I want to create a creative community where I can get more people that like to do creative things together and create things together, because I'm aware that I cannot create everything I made in my head, like all the awesome music, all the awesome videos. I know I cannot create it on my own, so I want to get people around me that can do that and potentially teach me, or just so we can collaborate and other people can do the same thing. And also at the end, and which is part of the dopamine fasting as well, it gave me a lot of motivation to start doing things. So it was great to get out there and start pushing things. If you have any questions about this, feel free to leave it in the comments. I will reply to you, or just ask me.